Well, good morning, councillors, members of the public, staff. Good morning to our Strategy, Policy and Finance Committee meeting today, the 9th of December. Also to our members of the public who are streaming in. Nice to have you with us as well, and to the press. May I extend a warm welcome to Jeff Rolleston. Jeffrey is one of the newly elected members of the Te Aroha Partnership. And kia ora and welcome. No mai haere mai, Jeffrey. Kia ora. Right, thank you. So I declare our meeting open and ask for apologies, please. No apologies. Councillor Gould for lateness, thank you.
To leave at about 5 to 10. I have a public transport meeting over at Environment BOP.
Thank you.
I will leave, and I will certainly report back to councillors on the content of that meeting.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Councillor Sharank. Councillor Maxwell, yes?
Thank you. I was just going to say, if we haven't finished our meeting by 11:30 or something, I've got to shoot off to Toto.
Right, thank you. And Councillor Stewart?
I will have to leave about 11ish. I'm going to celebrate the positiveness highlighted in the headlines in the Daily Post today with the children at Kaitau Intermediate School at 11ish. So
Thank you.
I would like an apology.
Thank you. And Councillor Tapsell?
And likewise with myself.
It goes for yourself, does it? Well, I sincerely hope we're not just 3 or 4 of us talking to ourselves by 11 o'clock. Thank you for that. They've all been noted, but I will call for a mover and a seconder that those be noted. Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Kent. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Thank you. Urgent business? Thank you. Item number 4 on our agenda, confirmation of the minutes. The minutes of the Strategy, Policy and Finance Committee meeting held on the 4th of November 2015. May I have a mover, please? Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Seconder, thank you, Councillor Kent. Oh, sorry, there was one correction, that's right. I'll just make... oh, yes, thank you very much. I better get that on page 6. On page 6, the header apologies should have actually been in attendance. You'll see that there. That was P. Thomas and J. Dyer, Rotorua Lakes Community Board. So that really should be changed there to in attendance. So thank you for that, Carol. Yes. Thank you. Yes, Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I see it's noted on the top of page 11 that these minutes contain confidential items that were to be released at full council on the 17th of December, and I think we need to note with some concern that they're being brought forward, and I sent an email to all elected members of the reasons or that this was being brought forward to this meeting for earlier release because they have all already appeared in some media and have been the subject of commentary in the news media, which it's contrary to the decision of that meeting that they be released on the confidential details of the Child Health and Library Hub be released on the 17th of December, and here we are discussing whether they should in fact be released today. So I think it raises a bit of a concern for me around confidentiality and around conflict of interest.
Well, thank you, Councillor Donaldson. Well, confidential means confidential. I mean, we're all mature enough to know what that means. However, it certainly does raise an issue. And I would like to open it up perhaps for a few minutes just for some discussion on this, because it is quite a serious, I believe it's a serious issue. When something is to remain in confidence or to remain confidential to a certain time, and that was agreed to by the councillors, if everybody is not in agreement, then they'll state it at the time. But certainly it should remain confidential until such time as the agreed time for releasing to the general public. So I'm happy to take some brief discussion on that, because it's disappointing. There's no doubt about that. It's disappointing that something should be released to the public before although we had agreed on the date when it would be made public. So thank you. Councillor Stewart.
I've been out of the country, so I wonder if Councillor Donaldson could just brief me on what he's referring to, what matters in the library and the Children's Health Hub update were released to the public. As you are aware, I declared an interest, and certainly any confidential matters with the DHB in conjunction with this topic have got to remain confidential, because there are contracting issues, there are design issues, there are financial implications for this council, and that's the reason why I thought it was left confidential. So I need to be aware of what were the parameters in terms of what was what confidentiality was broken and in what terms, because it could have long-term implications for both organisations. And that's I'm more concerned about the financial implications if that was the level of information that was divulged. But we got a pretty comprehensive handout in the confidential section in this last round of meetings, which I thought was to remain confidential until it was an agreed time between the both parties that be released for public information. So through you, Madam Chair, if I could ask Councillor Donaldson
Yes.
to elaborate a little bit more.
Thank you,
please.
Councillor Stewart. I'm aware that you were out of the country, so you mightn't have seen this, but are you happy to just respond to that, Councillor Donaldson?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Look, I too have been out of the country and actually only got home at 3:30 this morning. But my recollection of it was in a Daily Post report that there had been a blowout in the budget, or words to that effect, in a media release in the estimates for the project, and that clearly the financial estimates had been released and they also appeared, I believe, on social media run by the Rotorua residents and Rotorua District Residents and Ratepayers Association. However, there was comment from Chairperson Councillor Sarang that the public had a right to know. I think that was the comment that was attributed to Councillor Sarang, and that's simply my recollection. I don't have the media article here with me today, but it raised concerns for me about these issues being in the public domain while they're still subject to commercial sensitivity.
Thank you. It is about timing, obviously, hence the request that it remain until, I think it was later in the month, before they become available. Your Worship, did you have... Thank you.
Yes, I think this was extremely disappointing, and I've always trusted the confidentiality aspect of council, and that's what's at risk here. In that, in the future, the last thing we need as a council is to resort back to an executive committee type decision making that was made outside of council. And I've always believed that we must be transparent when the time is right for the public to know. And that was the 17th. And I was very alarmed to see yourself, Councillor Sarang, as the chair of the Rotorua Residents and Districts Ratepayer Association, saying it's a good thing it's out in the public, they have a right to know. The public would have had a right to know when we as a council agreed that this was to be released, because we were very aware that there were sensitive issues behind this paper. So I saw two issues here. One was the conflict of interest of a councillor who is clearly the chair of somebody not acting in the interests of a council collective, which we've all agreed to. We all agreed to the Guide to Good Governance. We all bought into that, and there's a section in here, 3.6, about confidential information, which, as you said, Madam Chair, is exactly that. I think in the past we've done very well sitting on confidential information until we release it, and then the public knows. But it was clear from the level of factual detail that the media and was on the social media that the paper, the issues of the paper, the costs, the current situation were given straight over to the Rotorua Residents and Ratepayer Association. And I want to ask, really, at this table, as the leader of these elected councillors, and we're elected here in the best interests of the whole of Rotorua, who released that information? Because I think we've then got to consider future trust amongst each other, and that's why I wanted this in public. because we've got to know that either we can trust that mechanism, not of workshops, but of confidential items of business that we want to bring to you. I've brought very sensitive issues and said to the Chief Executive, these should be discussed with Council in confidence. And you've not broken that confidentiality. But this, I see this as a breach of confidentiality, and with that has to come some sort of decision made by us as a collective about what we're going to do about this. Because we've got another year to sit at this table, and we can't have this leaking of information through to a group. And Councillor Sarank, I think one of the decisions that only you can make is whether you remain as the chair of that group, because it is a conflict of interest. You didn't declare that as a conflict of interest when we discussed that paper. I'm not saying that you sent it, but somebody did. Somebody certainly did in here. And so I think it's time to ask one another who did send that paper to that group, because no other ratepayer got it, no other ratepayer group got it. And I think that's unfair. And I think that's not equitable. There are other ratepayer groups in this town that have acted in the interests of ratepayer groups in a proper fashion. So we're faced with something I deem as very serious, and it's a break in trust. And it is a conflict of interest situation, and we've got to see what we think together should be done to face this with another year to go.
Thank you, Your Worship. Whether that is done in the public arena or whether it's done in confidential at some stage, I think we should give that some consideration, because we may well want to talk to each other and pull no punches and just say this cannot go on, and yeah, disappointment all around. I'll take two final speakers and then we'll move on to our agenda. Yes, certainly. Would you like to be the last speaker, Councillor Sharenk? Oh, beg your pardon, of course you do. Thank you. Yes, please speak.
To begin with, I made the comment as chairman of that ratepayer group on getting a phone call from the paper, and I believe and I stand by that comment I made, that the public have a right to know. I do not believe it is a conflict of interest at all, and if we're going to be pointing fingers, I would just tell you that document was dropped in a letterbox. So, not at this table at all, probably. Don't forget, you have a huge staff here. It could be dropped by anyone. Please,
Thank you.
don't point fingers.
Certainly someone did not hesitate to publish it. Receiving confidential material, you would normally say, well, this should remain confidential. First of all, if someone passes information to you that is not signed, you don't know where it's come from, when you pick up information like that, most of the emails we get from organisations have that on the bottom of them. If it's not for you, please either destroy or return or make it known. So, Councillor Hunt.
It raises serious questions for me, and I've got the code of conduct which we all signed up for, and I don't remember changing any of that. In particular, there is an article 4.5 on contact with the media, and it says elected members are free to express a personal view in the media at any time, provided the following are observed. And the last bullet point is really the point I'd like to make, is comments made in the media must observe the other requirements of this guide, e.g. not disclose confidential information or compromise the impartiality or integrity of staff. And I think, in light of what I've just heard, the integrity of staff is now being challenged here. Some could suggest that's somewhat passing the buck. However, the other one, 4.6, is about confidential information. And it goes on to say, elected members must not use or disclose confidential information for any purpose other than the purpose for which the information was supplied to the elected member. And elected members should be aware that failure to observe these provisions will impede the performance of council by inhibiting information flows and undermining public confidence. Now, if we're not able to act as a council and share confidential information confidentially, then we are not going to be able to perform the duties we have been elected for. And at some point, we're going to have to agree whether it's done in public here or done confidentially, if there is such a thing in this council at this point, we're going to have to agree to this to this code of conduct. It's not just words on a paper. We have agreed to be truthful and honest and ethical in our dealings here around this table, and to treat each other with respect and dignity. And part of that is not sharing stuff until the time has been decided. And that's what we're elected to do, to make some of those decisions. And it was the 17th of December. It wasn't long to wait. It wasn't going to be kept from the public, but it allowed those things that are about contracts and all of those issues. And we're dealing with another body here, the DHB, so it wasn't just our information that was given out willy-nilly. So whoever did it, and whoever then promulgated it all over social media, has to have serious considerations about whether they're trying to assist the council in the work of governing and running the city, or whether they're trying to put a spoke in the wheel and stop progress.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Kent, Councillor Wepper, and then Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't condone at all breaching confidential information. Confidential is confidential as far as I'm concerned. However, in defence of Councillor Searank, I have before me here a press article dated the 2nd of Wednesday, which is the Mayor's comments to the press releasing all these figures that are in this document. And at the tail end of it is a small comment from Councillor Searank, who was asked to respond to the Mayor's comments. So to actually outright blame Councillor Searank for this breach, I think is grossly unfair. I would also like to say that when I saw this in the paper, I wrote to the press and I asked for an explanation as to why the figures in here are actually wrong, because the Mayor is here quoting it's going to cost the council 5 to 6 million, when in actual fact we had been told it's going to cost us 8.8 million. And I would like to know, since when has it become council policy to control what is printed in the press? Because I have seen since articles released immediately to the press by this council appear on the press website and then be taken off. And I have here, right in front of me, Google searches for articles that appeared on the website of the Daily Post that actually stated in the Daily Post list of most popular articles that it was the top most read document, and it doesn't exist. So I would like to know, when did it become this council's policy to actually challenge freedom of the press?
Thank you. I don't believe this council has ever thought that might have been their role.
Point of order too, Madam Chair.
Yes, but what we should not be doing is working to undermine the effective operation of this council. To stop sniping at each other. There is some lack of judgment being exercised by some, I believe, around this table, and really that does have to stop. I'm going to take the two final speakers, and then we are going to move on with our agenda. But this, as you can see by the Thank you. Yes, Your Worship. But this, as you can see by the comments that have been made by councillors, is we all do consider it a serious issue, and it does have to be addressed. Yes, Your Worship.
I just want to clarify that I never alleged that Councillor Searank breached, but certainly see it as a conflict of interest with her comments back to the media.
Thank you. Councillor Wepper, then Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's actually been said, and I just wanted to support what is in the Guide of Good Governance that we all signed up to, and I won't reiterate that. It's been well articulated by Councillor Hunt in particular, and I apologise for being late, Madam Chair. So I missed Councillor Donaldson, what he had to say. But I am concerned about this. Unfortunately, over the years, we've had instances where there does seem to have been a breach of confidence at time, and I don't think we've investigated it as closely as we could have, and often staff have been blamed, and I've always found that quite disturbing. So to see this again, it's been on social media, it's very obvious We all get rung by the media at times, and I'm not blaming the media. They do their job. They like to fish and, you know, look for interesting articles, what they think the people want to read. But when we do sign up for confidentiality, all of us know what that means. It's not long to wait. We all know it's released in due course, and we all know the good reasons. And if you don't win the vote to keep it, have it out of confidence before something's sorted, you have to accept that. We all don't get our own way all the time. And the reality is that we just have to front up to that and do the best to serve our people and this council the best we can. And I really do take offence at staff being blamed. I don't see any good reason for them to drop anything in anyone's letterbox. So I would just say I'm really concerned going forward how this is dealt with. I think to go through this until the next election, having things in confidence and always being concerned that it's going to be released to someone is really undermining. And I almost think, goodness, do we have to go back to an executive committee? But that's the way it could be heading. And then everyone will say, well, we don't know what's going on. And we wonder why. So I'm really concerned about going forward. How are we going to deal with this? This is really serious and it has to be dealt with. Thank you.
Councillor Webber. Councillor Bentley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that we're getting far too serious about this and that we're shooting the messenger and not the message. Let's have a look at what the problem is and try and find a way around it.
Yes, thank you. To me, it's quite simple. It's Governance 101, that you
Madam
use your judgment.
JP could give us an update on where we're at, and that's a good point, Councillor Bentley. So
I
while
don't-
we're in public, have you got updated figures
No.
at all, or is that going to come later?
Yes, certainly.
Through you, Madam Chair, I think what we would be better to do, Councillor, is if we could come back to you once we've made a significant progress on this project and to provide you with a full update as opposed to providing partial information which is not complete at this point.
Right.
It really is just around the issue. Well, it's around certainly at this point. It's around the issue of confidentiality.
Right.
All of our papers from the two standing committees and from full council usually contain confidential items. They're put in that section because there are various reasons, well documented, well explained to us why that is so. At the appropriate time, information will be released to the public, and so it really is around. In this instance, it's around confidentiality.
Yeah.
We all know what that means. We
Yeah.
all know what that means, and what we're asking is that we act in the best interest of the public, of our community, and put that information out at the appropriate time, rather than when it perhaps suits the interests of others. That's what is actually being said here.
It's just
So-
that, Madam Chair, that only some have spoken and you were saying you wanted to move on, but I think it is important. This is a very important thing. Would you allow a couple of more comments?
Well, if you'd like to, yes.
Yes, I would. Just sadly, it seems that this term of council can't be trusted. This is not the first time. We lost a whole year with the Te Arawa partnership issue being released, and we had to deal with just months and months and months of
Order, Madam
mistruths and, and various things like that.
No,
That's
it's
an
not a point of
example.
order. No, he's speaking about what he believes are some of the issues.
But
Thank
this,
you.
for me, this term of council can't be trusted.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor McVicker.
On to the Te Arawa issue and point out, first and foremost, as Councillor Maxwell is well aware, the issue that I leaked to the media was not confidential. It was not. Get that right.
Oh, excuse me.
Well,
excuse
I will
me.
get that confirmed. Can I get confirmation that
At
the
that
workshop that we had was not a confidential
It
meeting?
actually, it was.
It was not. I will get information to that effect.
Thank you.
So please don't accuse me of that.
Thank you. So thank you, councillors. I think we've heard sufficient. Oh yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can make a couple of comments to you from the staff side of this. Today what you will see is in the confidential section a paper which is actually sensitive at this point, and it actually has your names individually printed on it, and we will be doing that from here on with regards to confidential items, so that when we circulate, we will circulate with clearly councillors' names who they were circulated to. Secondly, when we're dealing with this, anything confidential from the staff side of things, we are keeping the circulation of such papers highly contained. So in other words, only a small group of people in our organisation from the staff side will deal with confidential papers. They will not be widely available, and so we will control very carefully the circulation to ensure that we don't have any concern about material actually leaving the organisation. I would also say that staff are very clear that if confidential information actually becomes public, and it is done intentionally, that would be a matter that was treated as serious misconduct and would potentially result in dismissal. So we treat the confidentiality of information provided to you with the utmost seriousness. So you can be assured from my perspective that we will do everything humanly possible to keep circulation of confidential information very clearly contained.
Yes, Councillor Stewart.
Previously, we used to have the red pages in the document. I actually think that can now show the source. So, in order to get to the bottom of this, because I don't want this hanging over me as a member of this council and the DHB, I ask that every member around this table deliver to the Chief Executive Officer their agenda for the last council meeting where this was detailed. So if it fell off the back of a truck, we'll find out which truck it came from. I think this is so serious, it's undermining the public's confidence in this council. And not only this council, but me as an individual. And I take that seriously. So, Madam Chair, to stop this council being the laughing stock around, we are doing some great work. Our community's behind us. Let's have an amnesty, and you produce to the Chief Executive Officer the confidential item that was tabled at the last full council meeting, which has allegedly been leaked or put in someone's letterbox, so we can find out for once and for all that it's not one of the 13 people who sit around this table. And I really take offence to the fact that staff have been implied, and that's almost espionage, sort of FBI rubbish. So I really think we need to come to the bottom of this and kill it for once and forever, because the confidence of the community and this council to handle confidential, sensitive stuff of a business nature must be restored. So I ask for that plea.
Yes, Your Worship.
I agree with you, Councillor Stewart, and your righteous indignation is absolutely appropriate, actually. And I don't think we've resolved as a group of councillors what the action should be. And I want to say that I appreciated when Councillor McVicker broke his leak to the paper. He took his punishment on the nose, and he lost a portfolio that he would have loved to have been in. You know, and we lost his role in there too, which I missed. But I am concerned. There's not much else we can do, but we have some collective decisions that we could make about memberships on committees, especially external committees. And I think that is a concern that we as a council have to take together. It's our decision. We're the elected ones who feel that we have had confidentiality breached. And I'm concerned about that, and I think that's an issue that we've got to agree. What is the next level of action? You've got several sort of levels. You can have vote of no confidence, but really what does that mean? And no one's saying that, no one's owning that this confidentiality was breached from councillors. I heard that quite clearly. I don't like staff being blamed, but I do think we as councillors need to agree what we're going to do about the conflict of interest issue that we've clearly got before us. And that is, how can an elected member, elected in the best interests of council, be a chair of a ratepayer group that is clearly promulgating information that they've got by some means? It's just wrong. It's a conflict of interest. And I don't have the confidence that if that is not going to change, and Councillor Threnk's not going to step down as the chair of that group, and that's her choice, that's her democratic choice, but it's our democratic decision about should those members still hold portfolios. Councillor McVicker lost his. Should they hold external positions on committees?
Thank you,
where
Your
they're
Worship.
representing us?
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I take strong objection to what the Mayor's just said. We are not a lynch mob. We're a council.
Then
Now,
you may
if
not
you,
have,
if
then,
you want
then
to
you may not
hold,
have been listening to what
if
she
you
has
want
said.
to hold
She did not
an
imply
investigation, hold an investigation. Until then, do not make accusations. And this council should not be using the threat or the punishment of removing portfolios to obtain results that the Mayor acquires.
That is good. That is
What I said at all, I don't think...
That is out of order, that comment, thank you. That is out of order. What the Mayor is saying is that when there is a lack of trust, then it does not make for the best decision-making.
Right.
When there is a lack of trust. So I'm calling that, that discussion to a close, and I don't believe we've heard the last of this at this point. So we'll move to item number 5. And that's the... Sorry? Oh, beg your pardon. We have got them up there. We had a mover and a seconder for our minutes. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Thank you. Recommendation number 5. This is the bylaw review for our geothermal safety bylaw. I'd like to call for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the report. Thank you, Councillor Wepper. Thank you, Your Worship. It's been moved and seconded that we receive the report. The bylaw review, geothermal safety bylaw report, and the review of the geothermal safety bylaw 2008 be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Amy, thank you very much. If you're going to speak to the report this morning, and of course, Mr. Nevin, sorry, Mr. Hill. Thank you. Good morning, Nevin. Thank you.
Morena koutou. Okay, so the purpose of this report is for you to approve for special consultation the Geothermal Safety Bylaw 2008 amended version. So I'll just talk you through the changes that we're proposing to the bylaw and a bit around the timeframes for consultation and hearings and deliberations. Okay. So the purpose of the Geothermal Safety Bylaw, there's 2 objectives. One is to address any safety issues for the general public associated with the effects of hydrogen sulfide gas in our very unique environment. And the other is to regulate the safe operation and proper maintenance of headworks and pipework for geothermal production and re-injection bores. So the process we've gone through, we've reviewed with operations, with compliance, we've reviewed with Bay of Plenty Regional Council, and we've reviewed with the Accord group of Metalias who have geothermal pools, and come to some recommendations around what we'd like to change in the bylaw and go out to consultation on. So there's 4 areas of changes. One is covering the safety from effects of hydrogen sulfide gas. There's some Bay of Plenty Regional Council suggestions. There's some tidy up really in terms of just bringing in a previous amendment into the main bylaw, and then some minor corrections in terms of sort of typo type things. So with respect to the safety from effects of hydrogen sulfide gas, we had a meeting with the Accord group in November 26th, just to talk through with them their thoughts if there's anything more that we could be doing to keep our visitors safe, particularly when they're visiting our our accommodation where they have geothermal pools and so on. And the one change that came out of that particularly for the bylaw, was actually to put the requirement for signage into the bylaw. So currently it's not. Signage is a really big part of the safety, I guess, around that, in terms of having people aware that they should not be bathing alone, they should not be bathing in temperatures over 40 degrees, they should not be consuming alcohol while bathing, and so on. I think almost all of our accommodation units with geothermal spas do have signage already, but really they were quite happy to bring it in to actually be mandatory in case, you know, there is a change and someone comes along and decides that actually no, they don't want to put signage up for whatever reason. So that's just bringing that out of a signed sort of accord into the bylaw. And making a couple of changes to make it more internationally friendly. So currently the signs are in English, and we talked about different languages and so on, but actually probably using symbols for some of those things just to make it, I guess, more reflective of our mix of visitors. And then we also agreed to do an amendment to the actual accord around just best endeavours to make people aware of the risks associated with bathing in hydrogen or in geothermal pools, you know, when people check in, talk to them and things like that, but that was through the accord. The second area of changes is from conversations with Bay of Plenty Regional Council. So they obviously have the role in terms of controlling who uses the geothermal fluid and so on. So this is not about that. This is about safety in terms of use of equipment and so on. And they made a couple of suggestions, relatively minor. One was around the grouting over of unused wells and wanting to change the terminology from approved contractor to a term which was suitably qualified and experienced contractor, just to make sure that we were really using the right people for that quite specialist job. And also just in terms of clarifying a potential conflict between our water services and trade waste bylaw 2010. So the geothermal bylaw prohibits any discharge of geothermal water into a public sewer, whereas the trade water services and trade waste bylaw actually allows that with certain conditions. So it was really just tidying that up. We needed to retain the clause in this bylaw because it does have other elements that it controls, but essentially by adding the word subject to clause 23.1 of the water services and trade waste bylaw to the front of that clause, that sort of captures that overlap. Then the last sort of couple of changes, as I said, were more administrative in nature. One is really bringing in the amendment which was made in 2011 into the main bylaw. So we've got one document, and that was purely some definition changes, and then some minor corrections just to symbols and terms, just to clarify, just to tidy up, really. So we've been through, the report sets out why that we believe that we've done the appropriate revisions and determinations required by the Local Government Act. In terms of community engagement, the intention is to go for consultation from the 2nd of February through to the 7th of March in the new year, give people a chance to come out of that summer break, and depending on what calendar is adopted at this meeting, the tentative dates would be around having hearings probably on the 17th of March and deliberations around the 30th of March. So the resolutions that we're asking for today is to have the report received, have the minor corrections actually made before it goes out for consultation because they're not changing any intent, and that consideration has been given to the requirements of Local Government Act, and that we go ahead with the statement of proposal for special consultation.
Thank you very much, Amy. Councillor Bentley, then Councillor Stewart.
Thank you,
and then
Madam
Your
Chair.
Worship.
Thank you for your presentation, Amy. But really, each and every one of us around this table can read, and what you've just spent the last 10 minutes on tells me nothing new. I would suggest that, I would hope that in future we can have a conclusion from you, salient points, and let's get on with the meeting.
Thank you. I'm very happy with what was presented. It was a short presentation. It was again highlighting what had been set out in the document, so I'm quite happy with that. And as the chair, thank you, I look at these things before they're put on in our papers. Thank you for that. Councillor Stewart.
Getting to the crux of the matter, which is the content of the report. On page 44, Amy, and thank you for your report. It's very comprehensive, and I thought you summarised it very well for us this morning. On page 44, you've got, in summary, it is proposed that the geothermal bylaw 2008 should be retained with the amendments as follows. Just want to go to 5.19a. It should read, where in the opinion of an authorised officer, an abandoned or disused well or wells, because some properties have more than one well, feeding several outlets. But the other issue that hasn't been covered in the proposed bylaw is the abandoned or disused pools. They should be covered to a standard where access is denied, because in the industry that I'm involved in, I go into many where the pools or the bores have been shut off according to standard, but the pools still have water in them, and from a safety angle I think something should be covered, Madam Chair, in the bylaw along those lines. It doesn't say that they be sealed off with concrete, that access is denied, because later on people might use them for water, town supply, and heat town supply water and use them, and they should have that right. But whilst they're disused or abandoned, they should be sealed so that access can be.
Is that your question, Councillor Stewart?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that's clearly set out there. Is that right?
Maybe I may be able to assist, Madam Chair. So the issue around pools, whether they are geothermal or natural water, is covered by the Fencing and Swimming Pools Act. And so any pool that still has water in it still has the requirements under the Fencing and Swimming Pool Act to have to be properly fenced to restrict access to those areas. So it's not actually a geothermal safety bylaw issue, it's the fencing of the swimming pools that covers that.
Just thank you for that answer, Nevin. But a lot of the pools I see are indoors, so they're not fenced. They're shut off by, they're in the laundry end of the house or whatever, and the only restriction on them is the doors. So, you know, if they're external, I totally agree, they would be covered by the Fencing Act. But what I'm seeing is that they're inside a house and that they still have residue water in. A lot of the people have wooden covers over the top, so, and they're so heavy you can't get in. So that from a little children's perspective, or 5 or 6 year old, if they're empty and they see water in it, it's a big attraction. So I'm just coming from that safety angle, and it may be covered in other acts, I'm not sure.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Your Worship.
Thank you for that presentation, Amy. I actually enjoyed being brought up to date. It's good because this is a complex issue, but it's one that underpins our spa and wellness, and so we should all be very aware of the implications. The issue for me is Taupo must be remarkably similar with their spas, and yet they have a different regional council oversight. What are their bylaws? Are they remarkably similar? Because these visitors travel, and I wonder if we've got a consistency of message, especially about the safety.
Through you, Madam Chair, I may be able to answer this for you. So this really deals with hydrogen sulfide, the effects of the hydrogen sulfide. And even within our own geothermal field, we have areas that hydrogen sulfide is not an issue. So if we take, for instance, Ohinimutu, there are very little or no hydrogen sulfide issues per se in that field down there. When we talked with Taupo and we talked with Tauranga, because they have hot pools as well in that area, again, they have hot water, but they do not have the hydrogen sulfide issues. So that's why we are unique in New Zealand in this respect.
Councillor Donaldson, then Councillor Webber.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. My question was around the consultation, and the other safety issue that's raised here is the temperature of the water. And I recall last time we debated this, Councillor Kenny passionately advocating for hotter water because that's what the Asian market want. And we have a number of significant spa developments in the pipeline at present, aimed at the Korean market and the Asian market. So I wonder, when we go out for consultation, will we just do the minimum, or will we perhaps approach the likes of Rotorua and some of those developers to see what their views are around, having a say in particular particularly that issue around the temperature. I know we're not regulating 42 as a, a must adhere to, but we're advocating it. So I just throw that out there.
Yeah, absolutely. With the meeting we had with the Accord group, they did express that same view that there are some Asian tourists, so particularly Japanese and the Korean, that do like the water to be significantly hotter, and for them 42 degrees is not warm enough. But I guess make people aware that that's their own choice if they choose to add more hot water to the pool than what is recommended. But absolutely, with consultation, we'll draw up a stakeholder list and grow, and the other potential spa developers will be on that, as well as going back to the full I guess motelier and hotel group as well, because we had a few of them at the meeting, but not all of them, which probably meant that they weren't too worried about the state of the current situation. But yes, so we'll add them to the stakeholder list. Thank you.
Councillor Weber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, just before I say something, I would just say some locals like it a bit hotter as well. So just my question, I'm not wishing to micromanage at all, but I'm a bit fear of doing that. But I just wanted, first of all, to say I think it's really well set out, and I really appreciate that you've picked up and changed the wording, and I think it makes a lot more sense. But I just wondered, in regards to the signs, have we thought about like glow in the dark that people would have, or lighting? Because sometimes there's low light in areas, and or people don't have their glasses, and just things like that. Yeah, I have glasses now, so I can relate to it. But I just think that I have heard that before, that sometimes people don't see the sign because of where it's placed, and also just they can't see it in the low light, because often those areas do have that sort of situation. So I just wondered if we thought about that.
We will absolutely add that to the thinking in terms of what we can do, because we did change them to make these with international symbols and so on. So I think it's a really good point. Thank you. We'll make sure we consider that. When
there's lots of bush and, or, all that sort of stuff around. I have been suggested it before, glow in the dark sign. Thanks.
Councillor McVicker. Oh, thank you. Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Most of my questions have been answered, and I have to say a very well prepared and very thorough and self-explanatory report. Thank you very much indeed, and I'm happy to move 2, 3 and 4.
Thank you, Councillor Kent.
May I just make one more comment, sorry, Madam Chair? Even just drew to my attention that we did need to make one slight change to the requirement for signs to add the word commercial. We don't want to require every private pool to have a sign as well, so we just need to make that known.
Thank you. I was wondering about that. Councillor Tapsell, then Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, my question was just about that exactly, which was just to make sure that we're not prohibiting the private use of the pools. A lot of our suburbs do enjoy their geothermal water, so I'm glad that we won't be prohibiting our private users.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Stewart.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry to be persistent, but I didn't really get an answer in terms of the abandoned or disused pools and what provision there is for them to be sealed. I mean, if we're going to do a safety aspect in terms of hydrogen sulfide, I'm more than happy with that, but I didn't really get an answer whether that should be covered under the Pools Bylaw or the Fencing of Pools Act, or whether it would be more appropriate to be in here. So I really think it's a huge issue, because a lot of these pools are inside the house. They're not outside, or they're in a shed which kids can open, and there's a big hole. I mean, they're deep ass, some of these pools, with about a foot of water in the bottom of it, which is usually green and gungy. But this caters for the commercial operation of pools. I'm happy with that. But it's the residential, the ones that have been shut down, because quite a few of them have been.
Maybe, Madam Chair, I'll go back and re-clarify. So your geothermal safety bylaw is about the hydrogen sulfide. So that's that side of it. The fencing in swimming pools applies to pools whether they're inside a building or not, and the requirements around that. So if you think of a normal spa pool that's got nothing to do with hydrogen sulfide, they are still covered by that. Saying that, in the new year we will be bringing a paper back to this council around the amendments that the government is currently putting through to the Fencing and Swimming Pools Act, there's some significant changes that you need to be aware of, but at the moment they're not at a stage that we can report them to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councillor Kent has moved to 2, 3 and 4. Do I have a... Thank you, Councillor Stewart. You see them up there. Well, I'll read them actually. I should read them. Number 2, that the minor corrections to the bylaw as set out in this report be made. 3, that consideration has been given to the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002, and it is proposed that the bylaw should be amended as set out in this report. And 4, that the statement of proposal and proposed amendments to the bylaw be approved for special consultation, and that the committee hear and deliberate on any public submissions made to the proposed amendments. It has been moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, recommendation 2, schedule of meetings for next year for the 1st of January to the 31st of December 2016. May I have a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the report? Thank you, Councillor Weber. Thank you, Councillor Hunt. It's been moved and seconded that the report schedule of meetings 1st of January to the 31st of December 2016 be received. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Good morning, Una. Thank you for speaking to the report.
Good morning, councillors. So just what's in front of you, we have brought the schedule to you about a week earlier than we have done in the past, and this is just to provide you with an opportunity to start planning for 2016 and being able to plan and schedule your other commitments around those set down by council meetings. I'll take the report as it has been read, and I'm happy to answer any questions around it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Your Worship, certainly.
Yeah, thanks, Good to have the schedule. Can you just give us the rationale why from your perspective, you changed from 6-weekly cycle to monthly? Because I like the 6-weekly cycle, but if there's a really compelling reason why it needs to be monthly, we need to hear it.
You will see that through the report. We do outline that in 2014 we tried a 4-week cycle, and you will recall that a number of meetings were cancelled as we were going through the realignment. Portfolios were gearing up, and so the work program was just starting to really take off. So the 4-weekly cycle, we were in a situation where we did have to cancel a couple of meetings because we did not have reports to bring to you for decisions. Therefore, in 2015, we went back to the traditional 6-weekly cycle that this council has had for many years. You will recall that throughout the year, and especially in the latter half of this year, those meetings have become very large with high volumes of work coming through to you for decisions to be made. And I suppose really the major thing is that on a 6-weekly cycle, we do not follow and we are out of sync with the financials. You have made it very clear that you want financial reporting on a monthly basis, and a council calendar year runs on a monthly, a quarterly and an annual basis. Therefore, having a monthly decision-making process of committee meetings actually ties in most appropriately with that reporting cycle.
Thank you. Councillor Weber?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say I support this 2.2 in its entirety. The reason being is because it does coordinate with the financial reporting cycles. I've already asked staff prior to the meeting, and I've been informed that this actually works really well for staff. If you read the agenda, it does, of course, say, and I know you all have, but just to reiterate that the agendas were light, and that's why we went, there was complaints about that, that's why we went to 6-weekly, but now they're getting longer. And when you're chairing a committee, it's disappointing that if we have to stay till 2 or 3, some councillors have decided or have other commitments and go off and then wonder what's happened. So just for me, I think that it's better to have them monthly, more regularly and more timely actually. So people are up to date with what's going on and they know what's going on, and you can be a little bit more responsive to requests. So I was quite delighted to see actually we had a choice. I thought that was wonderful. And so thank you for the staff for that effort. But I would choose the monthly just because I think the Operations and Monitoring Committee meeting is incredibly important to get that financial reporting cycles on time. And the other part I support is the full council meeting starting at 9:30. I really believe that with the live streaming that people can watch, and I have heard that people are watching, they have us occasionally as background music and turn it up when it gets more interesting, I've been told recently. So that's good to know while they work. And we don't have huge numbers at 7 o'clock, and that was some of the rationale that we've always left it at that for people to come. But we saw, particularly through some of the hearings we've had this year, particularly the Te Aroha Partnership proposal, if people are really interested, they'll come. It doesn't matter what time, and I think 9:30 is a good, consistent place to start, and I think the live streaming's made a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Una, you'd like to respond?
Just to pick up on Councillor Wepper's comments about the live streaming, I've just got some stats in from the last 90 days, and we've had 1,618 views, and that's a mix of and this is all done through the live streaming. 56% are male viewers and 44% are female. And what we're seeing is that actually around about 60% of our viewers are actually watching the live streaming at a time that suits them. They're not actually tuning in at the time the meeting's on. They're going back to watching it when it suits them.
Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? Councillor Stewart?
Madam Chair, I will support the 4 weekly. I think there's enough flexibility there. One of my concerns was the portfolio groups meetings. But there's enough scope here under the 4 weeks to slot those in on a quarterly basis, I would say. Thank you. I support the recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. In the past, I've always supported the 6-weekly cycle, but being open to change, and there's been many good changes that have happened in this term of council, and plus it's only about 10 months up to October, and it'll give the new council that comes in October time to look back on and say whether the 4-weekly cycle was better or the 6-weekly. And the other one, and even like the 9:30 start for the full council meeting, I did enjoy the one night a week that people could come out if they did, but you're right now with modern technology, things come out. But did I read it right? There is no spare date set up now, which is probably good. Sometimes you put it in your diary on the 6-weekly and then the spare was cancelled or something. But I think we can live with this in a good way. And the other thing too, in the 6-weekly cycle in the past, we had about 4 or 5 standing committees. And when they were all in 1 week, if something awful happened that week, you missed a whole raft of standing committee meetings. One I can recall many years ago when brother-in-law Sir Howard passed away, it was the week of 4 or 5 meetings that week. Well, my attendance record that year didn't show well because I missed the whole week. But I think, yeah, this and all the rationale and that was put in here, I think let's give it a go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maxwell. Councillor Kent?
Sorry, on that. I support the council meetings being held at 9:30, but I would like to suggest a modification to both of the suggestions here, and that is the only meeting that actually that is dependent on the finances and therefore is better on a monthly cycle is actually our O&M committee meetings. So there's no reason why they couldn't be held on a monthly basis. And the council meetings and the strategy, policy and finance meetings be retained on a 6-weekly cycle. That will gain the benefits of both and not needlessly burden us with meetings. And if we then, with, for example, strategy, policy and finance meetings, which tend to perhaps go on longer because of debating over strategy, then we should say that that is the day, and please do not make other appointments on that day, and then councillors will attend. Whereas at the moment, we are getting given finishing times of 2 o'clock, getting changed to 3 o'clock, to being rescheduled because the mayor's got to go somewhere. And sorry, that's what is causing councillors having to leave.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't think
actually,
I've planned
there
one
is
meeting, actually.
there's actually some merit in what I believe there's some merit in what you're saying, actually, Councillor Kent, and I'll have my say when we move through the speakers. Councillor Donaldson, then Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Councillor Kent raised some interesting points, but I can see monthly for one committee getting out of sync with a 6-weekly council meeting over time. So, look, I support what Councillor Wepper says. I don't have an issue if there's a light agenda that a meeting gets pulled. It's a bit of a relief, actually, to get that pulled on an occasional basis. And the other point I'd like to make about the 9:30 start for full council meetings is not only the live streaming, but we also, now that the 2 main committees are recommendatory committees, so we get re-debate at full council, and then we have full council going much later because of that longer level of debate at full council. And if you've had a day that starts at 7:30 a.m. and you're still here trying to debate rationally at 10 o'clock at night, it's a bit much to ask. So I fully support Councillor Wepper if she wants to move the rest of the item.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you. It's obviously been seconded. I support the monthly cycle for a number of reasons. One, I think it provides a better management of the size of the agendas. Should reports be not quite ready to be put in, then that allows them not too long before the next reporting cycle. Should the agenda appear too large, then those that aren't urgent, and it may well be bylaws and things, can be shifted. So we'll get a far more managed agenda each time. But I think there's the other thing too of the commitment to elected members to make sure they've got the time on those days where these are scheduled, that they are free, because there are unintended events that turn up that require our attention. So I think that that's something that each one of us needs to commit to personally. So I support the 9:30 starts, I support the monthly cycle, and I do not support splitting meetings. I think no one would know what was going on. I think we'd end up having a council meeting far later to sign anything off. It means contracts can't be awarded, it means we don't know what we're doing, and I just think it would be a bit of a mess. So I support the recommendations as they stand.
Yes, Councillor Sturt.
Having a really close look at it, you and myself are on the DHB, and most of our board meetings are on a Friday. I think they can be factored in pretty responsibly. The only one that does concern me is the Audit and Risk Committee, which is on a Tuesday, which I'm a member of, which Tuesdays have always been out for me. It would have to be a PM meeting rather than an AM meeting. But all the other committees, I mean, this, and the media's got to be very careful. I mean, this is only a snapshot of some of the meetings that we all have to attend. Our portfolio meetings, and it's going to be interesting if the 10 councillor to community board concept is appealed, if it goes through as proposed. 2 councillors, I think, are going to. One councillor might be on both community boards, I don't know, but there's added responsibilities there. Plus, there's 2 less councillors. The agendas will be more concise, I believe. I think staff are doing a really good job in not bringing us information that we used to get our agendas with that thick. Now they're about that thick, which is really good. And I think the process that we've been through over the last 2 years has certainly streamlined what Una and her team have produced for us, and I think on a monthly basis, I think it will work. I think it's work in progress. We'll see how it goes. Una's got her finger on the pulse. If she believes the burden's too great or the agendas start climbing in content again, she'll come back to us with the appropriate recommendation. So I support the motion. I just hope you can put the motion and get on with it.
Yes, thank you. I'll just have my tuppence worth on this one.
Yep.
I'm actually rather disappointed that we're going to move, and it's obvious from the conversation, we're going to move from a 6-weekly cycle to a 4-weekly cycle. I don't feel that we gave it sufficient after the restructuring and everything, organisational restructuring had taken place. I don't think we gave it sufficient time to bed in well. We do have our portfolios, and we're meeting regularly with those ones, and other meetings, of course, obviously. The large agendas should not be a problem to us. We all handle that. Most of us have worked all of our lives more than 8 to 10 hours a day, so the large agendas shouldn't be any problem. And we do know the content, and we know the content, and we know. So I don't sometimes think it's a large agenda. I think it's sometimes just the length of the discussion we have concerning some of our agenda items. And as a chairperson, I'm quite happy to sit in the chair for 8 hours if need be. That's what I'm paid to do, and that's what I think I can handle quite well. And actually, Councillor Kent, thank you for your suggestion, because I liked that. I thought, yes, we can. We could always go to for my one, we could always go to the 6-week. I don't believe it would be onerous. I think very quickly people would know O&M is a monthly meeting, and strategy, policy and finance is 6-weekly. I wouldn't see any difficulty in that at all. There might be a little bit of adjustment on the staff's part, but I'm quite disappointed that wasn't given a little bit more of a hearing. But I think the consensus is definitely that we go to the 4 weeks. Councillor Kent, and then your worship.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate your support in that. And perhaps could I suggest that I move an amendment just to test that alternative, and that is to change the word from a monthly cycle to a 6-weekly cycle, and now with the exception of the Operation and Monitoring Committee, which shall be retained, which will take place on a monthly cycle. And if that was perhaps seconded by yourself, we could just put that to people to get a feel as to whether they like that idea or not.
So the only one that would be monthly would be the operations and monitoring, and the others would remain as is.
Could I speak?
Yes, please do. Yes.
I do think that's messy. I really do. I'm more convinced. I like the rationale, and it was in the report about the financial reporting, but I think when council officers put up a schedule, it's a schedule that they put some time into, considering that the management of council business. And I think it's sort of, just because it suits us to have one monthly and one 6-weekly, I think is very messy, and also messy for public. And so I certainly wouldn't support that amendment.
I am going to actually test that. It has been that. Have you put them? Sorry. Yes, we can have some discussion, certainly.
Mm.
Yes, I am going to. I'd like to. Thank you.
Test it?
Yes, definitely. I think that's. So please, you're welcome to speak to it. Yes, Councillor Donaldson.
Oh, it's a question, Madam Chair. So the proposal is for SPNF and Council to stay on a 6-weekly cycle?
No.
Or just SPNF?
Just SPNF.
So could I ask through you, Madam Chair, for Una to comment on how that might work in terms of scheduling? Because, you know, I just see over a 12-month period things getting out of whack.
If you only keep SPNF to a 6-weekly, I think you are going to run into the problems of, with it being a recommendatory committee, you potentially are going to have a long lag between when it can get to the next council meeting. If your council meetings either stay on a 4-week cycle or a monthly cycle.
Councillor Webb and then Councillor Maxwell.
Also, Una's asked the question that I had as well, answered that. But my other concern was that my understanding from reading this report was also that sometimes staff don't have their agenda item thoroughly developed, and so if they want to wait to a 6 weekly cycle, they might have to put it in quite not as they would perhaps have liked. And so there's a bit of a rush around that. So my understanding is if it's monthly, we probably will get reports that are well developed, there's no loopholes, it's pretty tight. That was my understanding from reading the report. So that's another reason I thought the SPNF would be better monthly.
I think we need to know that getting the reports has been tight even with the 6 weekly one. Getting them in adequate time to be included and to be got out to all councillors has been tight on the 6 weekly cycle. So in the monthly cycle,
That's my point, Madam Chair. What I meant was, if they know it's monthly, they might just say, well, I'll leave that report till next time. So there's not that rush. I didn't explain myself well. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. No, for me, I think it'll get too messy. Personally, I'm just trying to think, and even looking at the chart here, you either go for a decision on a 6 weekly cycle with our standing committees or monthly. And I'm prepared to allow for the things I said earlier about it leading up to October. The other one is we've got some new people coming on from the Te Arawa Partnership Group. I mean, gosh, if we want some consistency even with them coming on. So, no, I'll accept the monthly one and see how it goes up to October. Thank you.
Councillor Kent, after hearing the discussions, do you want to go ahead and put it and test the waters? I think we're a dead duck in the water, aren't we? We had a good try. Thank you, but thank you for that. Thank you for that discussion. So it has been, excuse me, I'll go back to, we've got a mover, Councillor Wepper moved, and Your Worship seconded. Where am I? Number 2, recommendation 2 with all of those points. That the committee recommend that council adopt the schedule of meetings for the period 1st of January 2016 to the 31st of December 2016 based on a monthly cycle, and that the following timing guidelines are agreed to. That operations and monitoring committee meetings shall commence at 9:30 a.m. B, that strategy, policy and finance committee meetings shall commence at 9:30 a.m. C, that council meetings shall commence at 9:30 a.m. and D, that extraordinary meetings may be scheduled as required. So moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. Right.
Madam Chair, just before Una disappears, those stats that she gave us through you, do you actually know what percentage of those actually were from people from Rotorua as opposed to international? Because most of the Google statistics, when you check into them and break them down by where they're actually coming from, most of the visits are coming from web crawlers from China and from the US and from everywhere else.
I don't have those stats with me exactly at the moment, but I can find those out for you.
Yes, it would be good to know who of our community is out there listening. Thank you. Could I have a resolution, please, to go into the public excluded? Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Thank you, Your Worship. I've had a mover and a seconder that the committee move into the public excluded session. All those in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Thank you. If you'd like to just get a cup of tea, then we'll quickly move into the session. And we'll just get a cup of tea and come back, because I'm aware that there's some people that want to move or have other engagements.